Question 5a. The probability that James and Juliet will pass an examination are 3/4 and 3/5 respectively. Find the probability that both will fail the exams. B. The table shows the distribution of balls in the bag. If 2 balls are selected at random with replacement, find the probability of selecting either 2 new green balls or 2 old blue balls. Probability that James will pass is 3/4. And the probability that Juliet will pass is 3/5. So, probability that Juliet will pass is 3/5. So, we say that let's probability that James will pass be equal to P of A. And then let's probability that Juliet will pass be equal to PB. Now we are looking for the probability that both will fail. So we need the probability that James will not pass. So probability that James will not pass should be equal to P prime of A. And probability that Juliet will not pass should be equal to P prime of B. Now to find the probability that James will not pass, we subtract the probability that James will pass from 1. And to find the probability that Juliet will not pass, we subtract the probability that Juliet will pass from 1. So this means that P prime of A should be equal to 1 minus the probability that James will pass, which is 3/4. We get 1/4. And then the probability that Juliet will not pass should be equal to 1 minus the probability that Juliet will pass, which is 1 minus 3/5. So in all, we should get 2/5. So the probability that James will not pass and Juliet will also not pass. So P prime of A and P prime of B. Okay, so in probability, N is multiplication. So anywhere you see N is multiplication. So this can be written as P prime of A times P prime of B. And we know P prime of A is 1/4. So 1/4 times 2/5, which should give us 2/20. 2 goes into 2, 1, and into 20, 10. So our final answer should be 1/10. Therefore, the probability that James will not pass and Juliet will not pass, or the probability that neither of them will pass or both of them will fail, is so probability that both will fail is 1/10. Okay, so that brings us to the end of question 5a. Moving on to question 5b. take the question again. So the table shows the distribution of balls in a bag. If 2 balls are selected at random with replacement, find the probability of selecting either 2 new green balls or 2 old blue balls. So first, we need to find the total number of balls in the bag. So it should be equal to new green plus old green plus new blue plus old blue. So the total number should be equal to 8 for new green balls, 4, so plus 4 for old green balls, then plus 2 for new blue balls, then plus 6 for old blue balls, which should give us 20. So the probability of picking a new green ball, new green, should be equal to 8, which is the number of new green balls over the total number of balls in the bag. And then the probability of picking an old blue ball should be equal to 6, which is the total number of old blue balls in the bag over 20, the total number of balls in the bag. Now the selection is made without replacement. So it means that after taking the first ball, we put it back and make the second selection. So the total number of balls in the bag will not change after the first selection. So probability that, so you find the probability that either 2 new green balls or 2 old blue balls are selected. So it means that probability of selecting a new green ball first, and like I mentioned earlier, and in probability is multiplication, and probability of selecting a new green ball again or in probability is addition. The probability of selecting an old blue ball for the first selection and probability of selecting an old blue ball again for the second selection. So we should have 8 over 20 times 8 over 20 plus 6 over 20 times 6 over 20. 8 over 20 should give us 64 over 400 plus, this should be 6, not 60. So this should be 6, not 60. Okay. 6 times 6 is 36 over 400. All right. So when you punch this on a calculator, or let me use the LCM method, we have 64 plus 36, which gives us 100 over 400. This cancels this, this cancels this. So our final answer should be equal to 1 over 4. So this means that the probability of selecting either 2 new green balls or Note the or 2 old blue balls is equal to 1/4. Okay. So that brings us to the end of question 5. So we'll be moving on to the question 6.